Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation. Brought to you by X-Cancer. Check them out at xcancer.com. I'm kind of stunned, if I'm being honest with. Not really, because I heard this news about a week ago, and I just been kind of waiting for it to break. But I was stunned, and it's kind of like I'm having a hard time putting certain things into words, if you couldn't tell. But this is kind of how I felt. You ever had something proposed to you that it's just like, it's too good to be true? What's wrong with it? Okay. I feel like I'm so stunned. What am I missing? Okay. There must be something, like, obviously he can bring things to the table and do good things. All right. Or he wouldn't keep getting hired on as offensive line coach in Division I college football. But it's like, what am I missing? And it must be something good that I just am kind of overlooking at this point in time. It's kind of how I feel right now. Now, you don't bring back Bill Bush. Obviously, Mickey's a whole other subject. Of all the assistant coaches, when the season ended, Donovan probably would have been predicted to be the least likely assistant coach to be brought back. Okay? So I'm thinking, I'm processing. I'm like, all right, let's think this out. Let's process this out. He only had 1 year with the offensive line. Okay? Now, maybe it takes more time than that. Now, turning around a position group is not the same thing as turning around an entire team. And the offensive line was kind of all-time bad, so some of that's got to fall on him. In fairness, he was without two guys who were supposed to be really good starters for us for like 95% of the season, Nordine Newilly and Teddy Prohaska. So, okay, you're missing 40% of your offensive line, or guys that were projected to be starters. You know, injuries, guys missing games, that is a part of the game. Okay, now maybe they very possibly could have been our two best offensive linemen. So that's something to take into consideration as well when you're looking back to what happened last year and trying to project what might happen in the future. Now, this is a guy, if you didn't know, played at Wisconsin. Okay, 3-year starter, team captain, honorable mention, all Big Ten 3 times, started 39 games. Like, Wisconsin is kind of the offensive line factory of the country. You know, you think of Iowa, I tend to think of tight ends. You think of Wisconsin, you think of offensive linemen. You know, he's got that pedigree in his family. His brother is Donovan Raiola, the first ever Remington Award winner in college football. Okay, so I start to think about this, and I start to try to process this in my gut as I'm thinking about it. And Matt Rule came out and said he wants young, hungry coaches. He wants coaches that are going to visit 6 schools a day. He doesn't want coaches that are going to visit one and then live on Twitter or Facebook or whatever the case. Like, he wants young, hungry coaches. I can't think of a coach on this staff that would have any more reason to be any hungrier than Donovan Raiola. All right, now, I know he gets linked to Dylan, the number 1 recruit for the 2024 recruiting class. That is his nephew. Okay, I hear you. I smell what you're cooking. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I understand the words that come out of your mouth when you say that. But I have a hard time believing that somebody's going to hire an assistant coach to coach an entire position group, ideally for like years to come, based on 1 recruit. Now, obviously, Dylan's a highly talented guy. His father played at Nebraska. His uncle's coaching some more at Nebraska. You know, this is the type of guy who could potentially come in and be a program impact type player, but also, you know, players hit the transfer portal. Players decommit. I know he's committed to Ohio State right now. Sometimes players just don't work out. To me, I have a hard time saying, hey, they hired Donovan because they want to get Dylan. I have a hard time connecting those two and actually thinking that's a major reason. Maybe a small portion or something like that. All right. Now, I want to be clear. Personally, I played with Donovan in St. Louis, played with him in D.C. We went against each other 40 billion times in practice. I hadn't seen him since I left D.C. When we went back to the walkthrough a few weeks ago. I mean, he talked to me as much or more than anybody, not named Mickey Joseph or Bill Bush at the time. He met the family. Like, he's a good dude. He's good people. On a personal level, I am happy for him. Okay? But college football is big business. All right, this is a business. I think people are starting to realize that more and more with NIL and the transfer portal. I think before people kind of thought, now it's like, no, it's business. It's always been that way. Players were just being taken advantage of before, but that's a whole nother show that I've already done. Okay, I definitely would not have predicted this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trust Matt Rule. Okay? He wants young, hungry coaches. The offensive line, the trenches is where he wants to win games. This might be the most important assistant coach hire. I would say strength coach, maybe D coordinator, offensive coordinator, but as far as a position coach, this is where he wants to win football games. He has $7 million to spend on assistant coaches. I can't imagine this has anything to do with any sort of money or getting somebody on the cheap or anything like that. He's got plenty of money to spend on coaches. He wants to focus on the offensive line. He wants to win with what happens in the run game, on defense, in the trenches, on both sides of the ball. I have to imagine this is something he spent a lot of time on. This is not a position hire that he took lightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trust Matt Rule. Okay, I'm very curious to see how this pans out, how this works out. It goes without saying I'm rooting for Donovan, not just personally, but as the offensive line coach here at my alma mater. All right, now do me a favor. If you're going to trust Matt Rule on this hire, smash that like button. In the comments below, simply say yes or no. Do you think this is connected to Dylan Raiola? All right, yes or no? Do you think this is about him being a young, hungry coach? All right, and do you maybe think it was harder to evaluate what happened with the O-line last season than maybe even we realized? Go Big Red. This show is brought to you by X-Cancer. Join the fight at xcancerstore.com and support your loved ones, your neighbors, and cancer fighters all over the world and help them gain access to revolutionary treatments. xcancerstore.com has a wide variety of t-shirts and merchandise supporting a wide variety of cancer battles so you can show off the colors that matter. Proceeds from each purchase not only help those at home, but also cancer fighters in Tanzania, Africa. Check them out at xcancerstore.com.